What's going on, everybody? Gunnar here. Today we're talking about the #1 fly to learn for the beginner fly tyer, the Bugger Jig. Alright guys, sticking with the giveaway theme. Give me a like and a comment. In a week I'll choose a winner. Boom, shipping off Bugger Jigs worldwide to somebody. That way you have either examples to learn in your tying, or you can fish them. Do whatever you want with them, but they're yours. Like and comment, I'll choose a winner in a week. But what I want to do is I want to talk about, 1, why this is the ideal fly for a beginner. 2, why I think it's the most effective woolly bugger presentation. 3, talk about the material set. So I think a few things stand out to this that are absolutely critical for somebody who's new to fly tying. First off, it's got a bead head. That means you cannot crowd the hook eye. What a miracle, right? Talk about the biggest problem any beginner has: proper spacing, proportions, crowding the hook eye, tying it off, using a whip finish tool, clearing a hook eye, being able to tie it on and actually fish the fly. Bead head prevents that. It allows you to work on your proportions and spacing while making sure and guaranteeing you have a fishable fly. That's pretty cool. Second thing, thread choice. 6,007-inch Danville Mono filament. It's clear, goes with any color of bugger you could ever tie, and you don't need a counter rib material. You rib it with the mono, which is unbelievably durable, right? So now you're taking that beginner who's overwhelmed by all the thread, all the colors, all the sizes, all the stupid naming, and you just give them one thread, you say, use this, it's perfect. It's round, low profile, good build, proper bite, clear, transparent, and you can use it as a rib. Simplify everything. Third, don't use a chenille for the body. Chenilles are level. Something you should practice as a beginner is building up a tapered profile, skinny to fat. You should be able to do that. Using the dub technique illustrated in the video, simply rolling your fingers in a back, back. Don't go back and forth. That's not what you want. Same direction, roll it in your fingers. You can create the dubbing yourself from what would normally be waste. So now you're getting more bang for your buck, using your material to its fullest, and you're learning a skill, applying taper. Don't use chenille. Fourth thing, and this is pretty critical, and it's something I tried to highlight even though we were going pretty quick, but everything was wrapped in the same direction. And I tie clockwise. I tie over the top, under the bottom. When I tied that hackle in, I palmered it over the top, under the bottom. When I caught it with my rib, which was my thread, I caught it clockwise, over the top, under the bottom. Everything was clockwise. Every step of the fly added tension to the material, durability to the max, proper thread control, proper technique. I see woolly buggers demonstrated all the time where the rib or the hackle is done counterclockwise and then caught clockwise. That's not a smart way to do it. You're adding slack into the system. The two things are literally pushing off of each other. Is it the biggest thing in the world? No, but that's technically the proper technique. Use it. Anyway, so let's jump in real quick to why I think this is the best woolly bugger presentation that you can have from what is commercially available to you. Simple fact, you can't fish it wrong. What I see in the industry, 90% of the people who come into this, probably 99%, 9'5" weight, all-purpose floating line, 7.5, 9-foot leaders. A weightless woolly bugger is useless. When you get into weighted woolly buggers, what's the point of adding weight if it's not on a jig hook? I don't understand why you'd make weighted woolly buggers not on jig hooks. Jig hooks with slotted beads are going to be nearly balanced. They can be fished under an indicator, they can be jigged, they can be dead drifted, they can be dredged, they can be swung, and they can be stripped. It can literally do everything. River, still water, the works. You cannot fish it wrong. You strip it, it jigs like a crayfish. It literally flees, right? You dead drift it, it's dead drifting like a leech. It's dead drifting like a big nymph, like a dragonfly nymph. You move this thing on the bottom, that silhouette, dragonfly, hellgrammite, burrowing mayfly, big stonefly. The thing imitates so many things. On the swing, baitfish, stripping it up current, baitfish, flicking it up, jigging it back, baitfish. Like, you have so many suggestive little nuances to the fly. Very buggy, very picky, properly silhouetted, movement tail, maybe legs, like whatever it is. And all those different presentations. The presentation kind of indicates what kind of forage it is, and the beginner then is focused on casting and retrieving and finger position, because the fly will fish no matter what you do to it. It's going to fish. You can't fish it wrong. If you dead drift it but then you start stripping it, it just changes the dynamics of the forage that you're imitating. Still, it's effective. It's like no-brainer. I don't understand why people weight woolly buggers that aren't on jig hooks, because the hooks don't have any proper orientation. There's no keel, there's no stabilizer wing. They just kind of roll and wobble, and the hook's going every which way, which means you can't really dead drift it, you can't fish it on the bottom, and you can't fish it next to cover because they snag stuff. Tie it with a slight bead head, very lightweight, 5/32 of an inch. This fits the size 2 perfectly. It'll fit the size 4 perfectly. It's a perfect weight for fishing anywhere from 1 foot down to about 4 feet in the water column. It's not so much weight you're going to snag. It is ideal. Tie it on the size 4. Tie it with a lighter bead if you want. Tie it on the size 1. Tie it with a heavier bead. Now you have 3 size ranges. The length is minuscule, more or less, and you can cover a full depth of water column on a floating line with arguably the most effective fly on the planet for both warm water and cold water species. Period. The woolly bugger. I used only 2 materials. Granted, they are very high-end materials for a beginner to have access to. This is the whiting soft tackle with chickaboo. Chicken marabou is where it's at for woolly buggers. I do not like using turkey marabou. Too big, too picky, too everything. You want a nice, thin, barred, very wispy, very white chickaboo. You don't have to buy a full skin. You can get a chickaboo packs. You can also find strong chickaboo, or it might be titled like woolly bugger marabou, but you want to find the small stuff, not the big turkey blood quill stuff. It's too big for the application. That's what you're looking for. This thing from Whiting is unbelievable. The colors, because it's chickaboo, the natural bar, everything is crazy cool. And then the soft hackle will come into play in later videos, but the soft hackle, I used any sort of soft hackle that wasn't perfect, adds the waist for the marabou, or for the dubbing, sorry. Now, our hackle wasn't a cape feather, it was a saddle feather. If you ever have questions about what those differences are, it's very simple. The cape is like if you tied a cape around your neck and it hung behind you, it's your upper back. If you put a saddle on a horse, it'd be the lower back. You sit on the low back right above the butt, right? That's the saddle. The saddle feathers tend to be nice and long, very tapered. You want the taper going backwards. Very picky. They're not super heavily dressed. You're not looking for wet fly hackle. You're looking for picky, sparse, breathy hackle. On top of that, aside from the taper and the sparseness, they're also very limp in the stem, which means they're very nice for turning. They turn very, very well. Being able to control the concavity of the feather because they have a slight arch, you want that breathing backwards. This is probably the best application. Now, buying a full saddle, a lot of money, but if you have the money, it's unbelievable quality, plus you get the size range from short all the way to your super long, high quality premium schloppen at the very tail end of that, because that's where the tail attaches on the chicken, right? Now, for the beginner, look for strung saddle hackle. That's your alternative. They take a bunch of that stuff loose, they sew it together. You can buy like a 1/4 ounce package for like $3. Super cheap and easy. But that is the material Substitutions. I used a simple Flashaboo dubbing, blend it in. You can do whatever you want there. You can omit it. You can make it super flashy for bait fish. You can omit it completely for dark day, dark fly rule, right? Whatever you want to do. So you have complete control over the flash, complete control over the taper. You're not overwhelmed by the amount of threads and the colors on the market or the ribbing material. You have proper tying technique, tying everything in clockwise, and you cannot crowd the hook eye. Size 2, PR374. It's the 90-degree Ahrex jig hook. Slotted tungsten bead, 5/32 of an inch diameter. 6/1000 of an inch Danville Mono filament tying thread. Start it right up behind the bead. Slide your bead on so that the small holes right here, the slot will allow it to move around the 90-degree bend for this size range on this hook bend. They're ideally designed for 60 degrees, but they work on 90 degrees if you do it right. Put down a solid thread base all the way back to front. This is the durability. Thread bases are crazy important. We're only going to use basically 2 materials to tie the whole fly. Whiting soft hackle patch with chickaboo and a saddle, a premium American saddle. It's pretty sick, but I'll show you some variations at the end. But what you're going to do is pull a piece of chickaboo. You can also find strung chickaboo if you're looking for a more cost-effective manner, but I'll show you some pretty cool things about the soft hackle. Tail, 1x shank length. Measure that off. Nice clean catch. We're going to put like 3 or 4 wraps to lock it in place. Lift it up, progress the thread to the head. Lock down the stem. This is going to help you make a nice taper. Once you put some thread down, you can cut off that stem, wrap all the way back to the bend. Now we're going to make our own dubbing, if you will. I'm going to come in with a soft hackle. Now this patch has some hackles that maybe have some twists or curls to them that aren't super usable as a soft hackle. We're going to cut the fibers off the stem. Don't pull them off because you'll get a stem membrane and it won't make a very good dubbing. Cut them off by cutting against the grain, cutting down the feather, and make a nice pile of the marabou section and even the stiffer soft hackle right at the table here. Now, bonus step, that's pretty cool. Take some flashabou dubbing, any color, doesn't matter. You can do a lot of cool mixing and matching. A little bit of pearl, just a little bit, and just kind of fluff it into your pile. You don't have to take more than about 3 seconds to mix that. Draw your thread out, wax. Take just a little sparse pile of your marabou dubbing here, dub it on. Now the way you dub on, you take your thumb and finger, roll something between your fingers, go the same direction over and over and over. That's how you twist it onto your thread and basically coat your thread and feathers, which you can then spiral wrap up. Now what's wicked cool about this, wicked, the word was supposed to be wicked cool, is that unlike a chenille, which is more or less level wound, this allows you to make a really nice tapered woolly bugger body that we're going to pick out with a big brass comb after this when we're done. So that's your bugger body. Fair enough, this is an effective fly. I don't care how messy this is because I'm going to pick it out and I want it nice and full. Come in with the saddle. Choose a saddle. Probably the one mistake you're going to make is choosing a saddle that has kind of a hackle gauge too big for the fly. It's going to be too webby and it's going to make the fly unproportional to the size. Choose something lighter on the hackle gauge. That means the length of the fiber coming off the stem. If you were to wrap it, you want it to be a nice picky leg. You don't want it to be a big bushy soft hackle. You want a nice picky leg. Now saddle hackles are ideal for this. If you need a cost-effective alternative, look for strung saddle. I'm going to put this on top at about a 45-degree angle. I'm going to catch that with my thread. Now the stems can be a little dainty, so be gentle. I'm going to take my thread behind the feather and I'm going to rib my body down, which is going to make all that dubbing unbelievably durable. I'm going to come in with some hackle pliers if I can find them. Pinch the tips, light pressure. I am wrapping clockwise, the same way as my thread. I'm going to put 2 or 3 turns right at the head. I'm going to progress that down, making a sweet segmented body because that saddle had a nice dark core into it. Now I'm going to take my thread, wrapping clockwise again, all the way to the tippy top, properly counter ribbing that hackle, everything being wrapped clockwise. It's going to be a talking point here when I'm done with this fly. Come in, trim that out. Take the last pinch of dubbing you got left on your table, dub it on, make a clean collar of marabou dubbing. That's going to help you control all of that. Half hitch, finger whip, cut it off, drop your scissors on the ground, one dab of head cement, boom, you're done. As that glue's drying, pick out tool, you can be aggressive. That mono thread is crazy durable. Brush this thing out. And that right there is the ultimate woolly bugger.